Hello, everybody. Welcome to SASE with R2 Unified Technologies. My name's Tim Lysing. I'm a solutions engineer with R2. SASE is a conversation that we've been having a lot with our customers ever since people have started to figure out what their work from home / hybrid strategy is going to be as we deal with the great reopening after the pandemic. As you very well may know, last year we dealt with a pretty difficult time where we had a core majority of organizations that were forced to be potentially 100% work out of office to 100% work remote. It provided challenges in scale with things like accessing the resources securely and providing accessibility to a work from home environment. Now, as organizations are figuring out what their strategy is going to be for coming back to the office, they're looking at a few different scenarios. One is either they're fully work from home. Two is they're going to be working in a hybrid type environment where folks may be working from home a couple days and then coming into the office a couple days. And then other organizations are adopting a 100% work from the office type strategy. So everybody's coming back into the office. There are some unique scenarios too where companies are dealing on figuring out ways where they rotate employees into a hoteling type scenario. But we have been getting a lot of questions in regards to how do I secure my users both from a branch and from a remote standpoint, and how do I have a unified security policy that deals with both of them from the edge of a workplace being in a branch. Also, how do we secure them when they're working from home? And even things like, say they're off hook. And what I mean by that is they're not connected back onto a VPN. How do we make sure that those users, as they're rotating in between working from home and working the branch, how do we make sure that that they're secure when they are working from home off VPN, that they don't go and get something malicious off the web and then bring it into the office the next day. And Security Access Services Edge, or SASE, is a model that really helps mitigate all those problems as folks move into a distributed style of workforce. So we'll talk through briefly what a day in a life looks like, or a typical implementation of Secure Access Services Edge. Now, SASE, everything is based on a private provider cloud. And what this private provider cloud does is it provides peering points for organizations to connect directly into that cloud to provide those security services. So essentially, you're taking a lot of the security services that were originally put at the edge, like say at a firewall or running local to a computer in the means of like firewalling, endpoint detection or response, and we're offloading those responsibilities into the cloud. Now, typically there are three major responsibilities that we see from a technical standpoint that happen in the SASE cloud. Things like DNS level inspection, firewalling, and then things related to web application or web gateway. Now, web gateway would consist of things that come into content filtering, URL blacklisting, whitelisting. So typically, we fall into a rhythm of going through a series of checks as we peer into the cloud. Now, by peering into the cloud, what do I mean by that? So for instance, we could have a remote working from home user who's working on a laptop. And what they would have is some type of agent that's going to be seated on that workstation that is going to do a web connection or web proxy into the SASE cloud. And there's a few different ways you can go about it. So oftentimes manufacturers have their own proprietary agent on there, dependent on how you roll SASE out as an organization. You can do a proxy auto configuration file, which will basically take whatever browser is of choice and put it into a full proxy and direct it to the SASE cloud. So a couple different ways. It just depends on how you want to roll it out as an organization, giving you a little bit of flexibility on your rollout. As we very well know, you're going to be dealing with a few different type of workstations that you need to enroll into your organization. So regardless if this is a laptop, a mobile, Mac, Windows, Linux, you name it, you're going to have a variety of different style of support. So as the laptop user, they make a request to, let's say you are a Microsoft Azure partner, and you are accessing a resource in Azure. What you're going to do is your remote workstation is going to try to make a connection to that destination IP. It's going to roll through. It's going to hit that SASE cloud, and then the SASE cloud, based on what's in that specific packet payload, the whole request itself, it's going to roll through a series of health checks. Is the reputation of the DNS good? Is there anything specific that we need to block on a layer 1 through 4 or even a layer 7 inspection? And then also, what does this look like on a web application gateway standpoint? Ultimately, you're going to come to a verdict across these. Is this going to be the traffic is going to go through, or are we going to block it before it reaches its ultimate destination IP? Now, the same type of policy and peering can be provided from a branch site location and headquarters as well. So in our instance here, let's say we have our headquarters and we are based out of Miami. What we would do is we need to create and establish a tunnel from an edge device. Let's say it's a firewall. That's going to create an IPsec tunnel to that peering point into the SASE cloud. So we'd have a peering point IP, and we'd create an IPsec tunnel. It's going to carry our traffic from internal to our organization in the SASE cloud, and it's going to go that same type of behavior as we painted before. Now, a couple different ways that you can roll out specifically to your organization that we see is as we have users that start to get back into headquarters, you're not only going to have internal employees, but you're also going to have guest employees. One thing that we often see is the way to use SASE to incorporate those guest users is you're going to have your isolated guest environment here. You're going to carve out specific microsegmentation, whether it be VLANs or layer 3 segmentation into the organization, and all that traffic is going to be traversed and pushed through that IPsec tunnel and run through SASE. Now, you can definitely, depending on the manufacturer, you can create policies unique to guest users, and also you can create policies unique to your corporate users. So if you do put in directory integration, say we're using an Active Directory source, and we connect that into our SASE cloud. Now users that are inside of the organization, let's say we have someone on a laptop, say we go through once again where we're going to just have them run this proxy file from their workstation. As they head out to that SASE cloud, these health checks are going to be set dependent on a specific policy to their Active Directory. So we could have a policy set for HR, sales, IT, and so the list goes on, giving you a ton of flexibility when it comes to how you have control and provide security policy over your different functional units. Now, this policy and this model, it can be extended globally. It can be extended just within the United States, depending on how many unique branch locations you have. So let's scale out our branch locations. 1, 2, X branch locations, where we're gonna fortify up front. We're gonna create that IPsec tunnel to those specific peering points that are designated. All right, this gives you a good idea of what SASE is from a high level standpoint. A few different things that you want to take into consideration, and there's some benefits behind it, just outside of dealing with a distributed workforce. Things to consider is now you're taking a lot of traditional next generation firewall capabilities, and now you're putting it into a privatized cloud for the manufacturer. And what that'll end up doing is from a performance standpoint, at the edge, since you're offloading those responsibilities that were typically handled by a router, or say a router with firewall capabilities or just a sheer firewall, now you're going to find that you're not going to be taking a performance hit when it comes to the edge. It's extremely important, as we've seen a lot of organizations over the past year. Bandwidth has not been of an issue. In fact, bandwidth has been something that a lot of organizations have increased. So what they found is a lot of the firewalls that they had previously invested into, they weren't able to handle the throughput of the bandwidth that they bought specifically at the branch or at the data center to provide their users access to those resources that they needed that were critical to their business operations as users started to work remotely or worked in a hybrid style environment. I hope you guys learned something today. I hope you stay tuned with us on additional content that we push out to our channel, and have a great day. Thanks, everybody.